Okay, so we've got a couple of questions here, essentially tackling the same topic, which is this announcement of a collaboration of sorts between Microsoft and Intel. So let's take this first question, first of all, from Eric Hurst. Greetings, DF. I shared your general bummed feeling when reading the leaked documents about Microsoft's next-gen plans for their Xbox console. I don't think we're really bummed about it. It's just, there was no innovation that isn't being done in the PC space. Anyway, they seem terribly uninspired. No mention of anything so next-gen that it could shake things up in a meaningful way. With that being said, what are your thoughts on Microsoft's deal with Intel? Will their chips be put in the Xbox? This would go against the documents suggesting ARM architecture in a future Xbox, unless Intel has a change of heart. Lol. What do you think is their plan here? And what would this mean for Xbox if they went Intel? Additionally, what do you think this will mean in the war between blue, green and red? This question from Callie Valman. Imagine an Xbox powered by the relatively proficient Intel mobile line CPU, coupled with a decently sized Battle Mage companion providing not only adequate CPU and GPU power for console needs, but also far more competitive ray tracing than the current offering, and possibly far better upscaling quality via XeSS, the XMX variants. No driver worries with old graphics APIs, just the DX12 the GPU was designed for. And to boot, you could name it Xbox exclamation point iXbox. iXbox. Okay. Sounds a bit Apple-like to me. Why can't this be the future reason to buy Xbox hardware? Alex, would you be interested in
I'm interested
Microsoft? Well, be interested in it.
Yeah.
Can you conceive of it actually coming to pass?
No. I just don't think there's been enough I think Intel, like, they need more time beyond what they currently have done to be viable for a console. And I think the deal regarding fabrication is about completely other business ventures from Microsoft that have nothing to do with Xbox.
Okay.
I would imagine it's about that, or maybe it's about fabricating the next Xbox, but maybe not about designing it, if anything. But I think if it were to happen, which I don't think it will, it would be really great. It would be we'd have finally different boxes again instead of these two extremely similar, very boring boxes, in my humble opinion. And I was more interested in consoles when they were very different from one another. And they'd share enough commonality where, like, the GPUs were all designed like in a PS5 or even in a theoretical Xbox that's running on Intel. They were all designed around DX specifications, essentially, at the end of the day, to fit in them. So they're all actually pretty similar, but they offer enough variation, enough innovation beyond that DX12 barrier that is like, hey, this is different. Also, on the CPU side of things, we'd have two different approaches. We would have, in this case, they're mentioning the efficiency cores being a big part of this, and maybe even a dropping of hyper-threading, which is apparently the next thing that Intel's doing. They're dropping hyper-threading, right? I'm not mistaken there, right?
You're not mistaken. Arrow Lake.
Yeah. So
the P cores in there, no hyper-threading.
So that is all very interesting. It would offer a different path than what AMD's doing. With Untold, who knows what that would mean in the end for the CPU efficiency of games. You'd have one box that has way more cores than the other one, and it would bring me back to that time, like when they announced the Xbox and they announced the PS3, and no one knew what the differences really were, and they were like 3 cores versus a potential of 8 plus 1 or whatever, and it was like PS3 is going to destroy that Xbox. That's all I could think of. But lo and behold, I would love these boxes to be very different in that aspect.
Okay, Oliver?
I think collaborating with Intel would be an interesting idea, maybe not a likely idea, but I believe the existing Intel deal is mostly about AI processors, right? Future AI processors that Microsoft is developing. But if you look at Intel's market position at the moment, they do seem to be trying to drum up new business, which is really what I think it's called Intel Foundry now, but until like last week,
Yeah.
it was called Intel Foundry Services. That's what it was designed to do, right? Open up their fabs for other manufacturers, publish their design rules, get other products in those processes. But I would say that I think if Intel was involved, there's a good chance that they would be designing at least the GPU chiplet, I would think, on the SoC on a TSMC process, because I believe Intel's Arc is on 6 nanometer, 5 nanometer, and 3 nanometer in the future, depending on the product. So the discrete desktop GPUs on 6, the chiplet for mobile CPUs on 5, and then in the future they're talking about 3 nanometer at TSMC for their future Arc desktop GPUs, I believe. And so I don't think it would be, maybe it would be manufactured at Intel, but I think it more likely to be manufactured at TSMC because that's what they're designing to at the moment. And in terms of the impacts on other competitors, for NVIDIA, I can't really see it having a huge impact on a company with a $2 trillion market value, with their primary interest being data center GPUs. And for AMD, it would be more disruptive because it would disrupt their console business a little bit, but it would be disrupting the smallest player in the console business. So I'm not sure if that would be a huge blow to AMD. It would certainly impact them though, because a lot of their business is those console deals, but not huge. I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Just my thoughts on this. We don't know much about Battlemage, but we do know a lot about Alchemist, which is their it's their starting point basically for discrete GPUs. And from a consumer perspective, the RK750 is extremely compelling because it's often available for under $200, and it, in some games it can outperform a 3060 Ti, which is like, in theory, mega. The only reason it's cheap is because it's just not selling, and they're obviously taking a loss on that, and that's not something that they would want to do to that scale, selling like 50, 100 million consoles. They've, based on Alchemist, it looks to me like Intel is way behind in terms of performance for your transistor count. And as we were talking about earlier with the Sony patent for upscaling, area is massively important when putting together a console SoC. It's like, every single square millimeter counts. And Intel just don't seem to be at the races at the moment, certainly with Alchemist, but maybe, it would require a quantum leap for Battlemage to actually be competitive with the likes of AMD and NVIDIA. So I don't really see the idea of an Intel Xbox as happening, as viable, as much as I'd quite like to see it, because they're doing some really interesting stuff at Intel. But I agree with Oliver. I think it is probably some other kind of deal they've got going there, because the future is AI as far as Microsoft is concerned. That's their primary focus, seemingly. So that kind of makes sense, right?